Hello, welcome. So the full release of the game is here and we have a lot of things to talk about. Now, before we start, I just want to mention a couple of things. I will not talk too much about this interface over here, but it's very useful in the beginning of the game to, for example, see how much food you have. You also edit this to see how much you have of everything. So, for example, you want to see your meals. You have your ingredients and you have your meals. Very important in the beginning and even the end game, make sure you have enough ingredients and also to have enough meals. It's also very useful to see when the crows appear. And also over here in the resources you can see when you have, so, for example, different stuff. I'll not get into details like I said, but play around with these things because they're very useful to play and to see how they work. Number two, this is an older save file, so some things you see over here might not work in the current version of the game. Like, for example, why do I have a chimney over here and why does that work? I guess they have another magical teaching station over there, the power of toxic smog. And over here, I just wanted to show you some eye candy, how the game can look in the end game. Which is just having a lot of quilts, which is having, oh, that's a very fancy hospital. Those syringes are very scary though. So yeah, as you can see, this is just for eye candy. And let's go into my save file that is on Relentless. And this is on relaxed difficulty because this was the basic difficulty when I started playing. So let's load the game up. And we'll be starting with the most basic of tips. So yeah, try to look at the video as a whole and don't skip anything because it's structured in a way that it will make things easier to understand from top to bottom. Now my first tip is related to the schedule. Don't modify the schedule, just leave it as it is except for 2 hours of recreation over here. So basically you want all of them to sleep. You can sometimes make them work with 5 hours of sleep, but it's not worth the risk of making them upset. So 6 hours of sleep, then they wake up, they eat because you don't want them to get upset because they haven't eaten. And then everyone, and I really mean everyone, will have 2 hours of relaxation. Again, sometimes you can get away with 1 hour, but it's not worth the risk. Sometimes they need more than 1 hour. And over here you can see everyone has teaching, and that is of course cleaning up, and then more teaching, and then cleaning up, and also they will eat another time before they go to bed if it's possible. And it's very important to make all of them eat at the same time because that's how you kind of bond them together. Unless they have a specific thing, a specific quirk that makes them hate each other, don't change it. Also, as you can see, this is kind of like the time. I don't want to get into the details of it, but as you can see, they will work during the night as well, a little bit later than they should probably. Then they'll just sleep this entire portion over here, which is the most basic you can do. Now, like I said, don't get fancy because you have a very high risk of just breaking something you'll never know how to fix. And just use Reginald, your ghost, for manual inputs. I like to use a lot of manual inputs, otherwise you just get lost in all of the stuff you have to do. This works very well for the beginning and the end game. If you want to do something specific, just do it manually and watch how they do it. Now this was tip number 1, now tip number 2. Let's go to the main menu. Will be related to your starting mages and what should be their classes and what should you do them. Well, click next over here. Well, I guess if I click start it will, whatever, doesn't matter. When you start up your game, I recommend you have a lightning mage and a dark magic mage. Now, as you can see, they have a lot of stats. So let's say you aren't a human. Mana is used to do everything. So if they run out of mana, they have to recharge mana and do something else. So go over here lightning, go over here dark. Now if you do this, every time you reroll the mage, as you can see, it will change their race, but it will remain the same wand. So basically you want a lightning mage because they will do all of the research, and that's super important because if you research slow, you'll not be able to advance. If you research too slow, you'll also not have access to all of the cool stuff, and I guess you'll just simply wither out because you cannot expand your academy at all. Why a human? Because of the huge mana pool, and also the research desk will be kind of close to the crystal, and the mage will mostly be wandering those hallways. So it's a lot better to do it like this because research, mana, because you have access to these things. Plus, in case there's a combat or something else, you can just make the mage do the stuff that they need to do. Also, they're very good in combat because they will unlock inspiration, which will give them a guaranteed critical hit on the next attack of the ally you use the buff on, plus the speed, which will make them be first. And also regain some mana with recharge. Damage is not so important because yeah, damage is not so big for humans. As you can see, they don't really have a lot of power. It is also very good, so this is why I like to have speed on the human. As you can see, the poor quilted don't have any speed, so yeah, he will definitely be researching most of the time. Now, why a vivified with dark magic? Well, the vivified have a lot of HP and they also eat a lot of stuff, including godberries, raw godberries. They don't mind, they just need food, which is great because that means with a big health pool and not much to upset them and eating anything, will be a great boost in your beginning when you just have to feed, let's say, one teacher, 2 or 3 students, and the rest can just eat the godberries. Now, dark magic has a few issues. First of all, the skills will eat away your health. As you can see, 20% of max speed. This is a more recent change, but you can reduce that to 10% if you have the cloak for the tentacle sweep. And the miasma, well, the miasma is going to be much harder to use right now because it eats up a lot of health. But yeah, remember to try and use the Shadow Cloak if it's possible, otherwise don't waste your critical attack. So, in combat, basically this guy will give inspiration to this guy, and he'll have a huge attack with a lot of damage, which will be what, 182 damage. Now, why dark as well? Because they can make the quilts. The quilts that you can make as a basic, the basic quilts will be the sweeper and the haulers, which are not that useful in the beginning of the game, so you might as well delay it a little bit, but later they'll be super important because you'll not be able to haul everything before the fog sets in. So again, because of the quilts, the ability to make the quilts the helpers, because of the health, because of the damage, mana is a little bit limited, speed is a little bit limited, they'll mostly be mining and chopping trees as well. So yeah, static units like this one will mostly do the basic and menial tasks. Okay, so tip number 3 is related to the research tree. Without again getting into too many details, the priority is more or less always the same. You should research to make an enchantophone dancing the night away. And you probably want to get the gruel pot so you can get started on, you know, making some food a little bit. Maybe. The gruel pot. Also, notice how this costs iron, so you'll only be able to build one enchantophone, one gruel pot. And keep in mind that the enchantophone is only for 4 people, students or teachers. So we're going to need multiple of them a bit later. Keep that in mind. And the medical bed, which is a little easier to see because it's over here in critical care. Very, very important, otherwise they will regain HP super slowly, which is kind of bad for your dark arts mage and some of the other stuff. You want to fight a lot, so you really need a medical bed in the beginning so you can avoid death situations. Then you need to go into to research stuff that is related to a better research room. It's a little harder to see, but over here you also have the better beds. I forgot the exact bonus, but they can turn a room into a dormitory, which will be good. You also have the windows over here. You also have the bookshelf, which will add scholarly luxury, which is needed for the better research room. I guess over here I already have the mage tower, so as you can see I had to build a lot of bookshelves in order to get enough scholarly luxury. And I just like to break the windows because the torches or the lighting torches will decrease the total luxury. Yeah, basic luxury -2. Again, let's not get into details. It might be important for a bit later. Okay, let's continue. Now, after you do that, you might also want to take the table or the desk. What was it called again? I guess we can easily go and look at the gruel pot. Plastic dining, so because they will want to eat on a table as well. So when you get the basic stuff done, they will not get as upset as they usually are with you. And then you can finally go into the quilted helpers. Sadly, in the beginning you will only have the haulers and the sweepers, which can be useful, but you can delay the creation of them a little bit, and then only much later can you get into the other more helpful ones. And if you're wondering, well, what should you do next? Again, I don't really prioritize teaching the students that much, it's important, but I want first of all to make sure I don't have any problems with food or anything else. So for example, well, obviously you need the godberry planters and the sun shadow tree planters and such, and then you should kind of research them one by one as you can. go into the honey drop planter so we can have the honeydews. You also need to have spice things up in order to cook it to have the honeyed gruel. And then foundation. What is foundation? Well, foundation is basically what you need to expand it, which is this one, going places. That expands where you can build the school and support the walls. You also can build ladders. You also have the bridges. I guess you can also kind of make it, but again, no, don't bother with stuff like that. You'll just need the foundation to expand your school, and then, as you saw in the beginning of the video, you need to start expanding your school a lot more. So this is what you need for the basic stuff. Now, tip number 4, how to get... Well, it's very important to expand because below, this is related to the important resources. Below you'll find a lot of stone and iron, because at this point you'll be out of stone in the open fields. Also, don't leave anything out when the fog comes, because the fog will destroy resources that are harvested and not in a chest. So you can find more stone and iron below the school, and at this point, as you can see, if you have all of the stuff I mentioned, you should probably start fighting in the underschool. Now, this will also be related, this tip is related to more resources under the school and combat. I already showed you how the lightning mage with its skills kind of interacts with the dark mage very well, and with the tentacle sweep. Like I said, you can also just, the first time you have him, you can apply the shadow cloak so it doesn't take as much damage from the cast. And this will kind of be enough in the beginning to do the basic of combat. If you're wondering what mage you need next, so lightning, dark, fire, because the fire mage will cook, and you'll need to cook a lot. You'll also need to hunt a lot more, and you also need to destroy some obstacles. And it's also a very good spellcaster for magic. So this will also be a DPS, as you can see, does a lot of damage. Now, this is all random, so it depends on what students you'll get, but as you can see, it's critical, 50% critical hit chance, and then you have Vengeance, which can be very useful if you have a particular teacher that gets hit a lot. And then you also have the Fireball, which will be a little better, and some of the other things. Now, well, also because you need a lot of mages, so that means you need someone to cook a lot. And the next one should be nature. I think I messed this a little bit because I have one with earth, but no. The next one should be definitely be nature, because nature is needed to, let me see if I can get this, to harvest and chop and craft the ones. You see all of these plants over here? They are currently being tended by the ghost. I guess I should have shown you this in the beginning as well. So the ghost will do the construction and the tending and the harvesting, but mostly the tending, otherwise it will be very good. If you put over here harvest as well, it will be super slow, so I recommend you just put the tending, so at least you're making sure all of the plants are growing. This guy, as you can see, it's full research, nothing else. Margaret is mostly teaching right now because he's done with chopping and mining. And that's kind of it in the beginning. So yeah, you have the lightning mage, the dark mage, the fire mage, and then the nature mage. And then there will be the earth mage, because the earth mage is more or less just for combat and for some other stuff. Construct, carve, mine, and repair. So yeah, it will mostly do some other things, but more importantly, it has a super cool defensive skill. 20% of max HP as armor and toned 2 to the caster. Which means if you have a very strong caster, like, well, it's not very strong, you'd need someone like a wolf to cast the stone armor on, for example, your dark caster, or even a student that is like this, stitched. So it can be very hard to kind of continue down the path of the students and the teachers. Now, team number 5, this is related, okay, that was the biggest part of the video, as you can see. Team number 5 will be related to the Repelling of the Fog. At the beginning of the game, I recommend you do 2 repel rituals, the small ones, so you can repel it a few times per, well, I don't think you can get away without doing 2 small rituals per day. Then when you have a student as well, you should always do the bigger one. And what is the bigger ritual over here? It's just a superior one, but you always have to do the one that costs wood and godberries. that will push the fog very far away, so I don't recommend you going to this one over here, because as you can see this is so much more expensive, costing smoke sticks, phoenix flowers and ice petals. So much more expensive. Even the basic ones, as you can see, will cost a lot of smoke sticks and phoenix flowers and ice petals. So only later will you get into making this at an industrial scale. So for now I just recommend you do the basic one, and then you just do the superior one. You'll do the superior one almost every day. Later on you'll get other options to deal with the fog, but that's enough in the beginning. Now, I don't want to get into stuff like this because it's a little bit harder to understand, let's just say like that. But at this point you should mostly be exploring the underschool, because this is kind of like the limit of where you can get the resources. You already have the honey drops bushes over here. You also have the mandrakes and some of the other stuff, but this is more than enough, so don't bother expanding more, because you don't need to expand to the left or the right, you need to expand below, the number 6. Now, what rooms to build next? Well, let's go back into my other video, other version of the game, either let's play, because that's also a part of a let's play. I guess now you can see how old this is. It's quite old, I guess it's over a year. So what do you do after you have the basic stuff? Well, in my opinion, after you have the basic stuff done, you need a huge dormitory for the students, especially for the students. As you can see, they will dance over here, they'll eat over here, they have the dining tables. Make sure everyone has enough room for that. So this will be a huge room. I should have built it a little bigger than this. And then you'll need a medium room, a medium dorm for the teachers. I tried to have them each with their own rooms, but this doesn't work. Don't even bother making separate rooms for them. Just make another dormitory for the teachers, like this one over here. As you can see, I completely gave up at some point, because it was just too much hard work to make them separate rooms, or just to have a double-sized room. Because you can also have a special room that has 2 beds in it. Don't bother. Hard. And then you also need a medium dining room. Let me see where I made the dining room for the teachers, because they'll not eat in the same spot as the students anyway. I think I destroyed it at some point, or it's somewhere up there. Oh, it's over here, see? They have a separate dining room because you need to keep them super happy. So basically the first floor or the ground floor will just have random nonsense. As you can see, don't even bother trying to sort all of this out. Most of the times you'll just end up with a smaller classroom, you'll end up with rooms that just are for storage, you'll end up with the ritual room over here. Then the first floor will basically have all of the important stuff like the hospitals, the one-shapers, some dormitories, the workshops, the kitchens, the other stuff. And then over here, starting with the second floor, again, this should have been a single floor, to be honest, because I just messed up. As you can see, I could have put the dining room over here. And starting over here, this should have been a single floor. So over here, there should have been a huge dormitory for the students. There should have been a huge classroom like I have over here. As you can see, it contains everything. And maybe if you want, you can make another dormitory for the teachers as well on the second floor. So the ground floor is basic nonsense. The first floor will be the one that has the workshop and the important stuff, and the second floor will be the one that has the dormitory. This should be up here. Probably should put the school rooms in the middle, and then a dormitory over here for the students, because they also need a bigger one, because they also have to eat and party over here. And then on the other side, I should have made the dormitory for the teachers, which is this one, related to some of these rooms. Over here the dormitory, and over here the dining room for them. You just have to let the hollows do all of the basic stuff. Again, just so you know, kind of like the basics, and then you can build another room, another floor over here, which will have more things. But I really recommend you do something like this. For example, don't be afraid to put multiple rooms on the same floor. As you can see, this is a floor room, because I just gave up. Don't even bother trying to build anything else like that, because you can just make multiple rooms on the same floor. You can just make the roof below the foundation over here. You can just have an open area over here. and so on. So don't worry too much about this, just focus on making a floor. Otherwise you'll get super confused by all of the random requirements the other rooms will have. Now let's go to tip number 7. Now this will be a little shorter because you have a room goal mechanic that was never really part of the base game. I guess we need an empty room. Again, this is because probably they don't work as intended. So let me go over here, load game. Some of the older features were not that great. So let's go into my current run and you'll see what the room goal is all about. So go over here in room, select it, and you'll have a room goal. So for example, if I want my room goal to become a medical room, I'll have to select the goal and it will show what I need. So it's silent already. It just needs one more medical bed. That means after I move this bed over here, it will be a medical room. Also, the furniture needs to be fully repaired, otherwise it will not work. So basically, if you're having problems like I had a lot of the times, also workshops contain this stuff as well. So for example, the mage study, as you can see, it needs to have one door and stuff like that, and mage door and so on. For example, if I want this to be a mage hermitage, well, this is going to be so much harder in a way. Must not have. It doesn't have all of those things, but it shouldn't even have a door. Which is weird, because I'm not sure how you're supposed to do it without a door. I guess a ladder, I don't know. I'll just have to look at how this works, but as you can see, I just need more scholarly luxury in order to make it a 400% research rate room. But it's not even worth going that way. So this is how you're supposed to address every room. So go over here in the room guide. You can also look at the book of rooms, but usually you just have to look at what you have and clear the goal or select the goal. So if I want to make it the more advanced room, I will need 3 medical beds, 2 more incense burners. So I'm not sure if I can fit another medical bed over here, but I'll try my best and we'll see what it will be like. Now, tip number 8. Well, this is an easier tip as well. After you did all of this stuff, you probably have built the first floor, finished the ground floor and built the first floor. You have to automatize everything. What does that mean? Well, that means 2 things importantly. You need a lot of quilts, because now you have quilts for everything. This was not in the base game and it didn't work this well, so you'll have also the choppers, the repairers, the miners, but you'll also have, guess what? The tenders, which can tend to the plants. Also over here, the harvesters. So basically you will not need anyone to handle the plants, so basically you'll have more students and more teachers available for a lot of other things, which is mostly combat. Now what do I mean by... Oh boy, this will be hard to explain. What do I mean by the chests? So you'll have to have a certain amount of chests almost in every location. So I guess this is the harder part to explain. So if you have a kitchen, as you can see, you can put a pantry in the kitchen. So you have to put the specific storages in the specific rooms. Otherwise, you can just have, let's say, a chest over here, and this chest will contain the food, the meals that you need to take into the dining room to eat, I guess, if you can consider this a dining room. You can either put a pantry over here or you can put a chest over here, and this is what you have to do for every room. For example, if you have the one shipper over here, you need to put a chest near it, and then you have to press clear all, and then you should only allow wands in there or materials that are needed to make the wand. So yeah, you have to automatize everything so all of the quilts work very nicely and the storage works very nicely. And that was tip number 8. Tip number 9. Now let's speak about the starting trio, because this is a very, very important thing, which will tie into the status and conviction. Now, your trio is of course your first 2 teachers plus the ghost, which are very important because this is the thing that will allow you to recover from a lot of disasters, a lot of problems. Also, the ghost can just phase through the floors, through the ground, and it can do anything. So I like to have the ghost carry stuff or do overnight tasks like mining all night or chopping trees all night. And this is how you recover from these things. So the ghost will always be happy, but let me show you the status and conviction of these guys over here. They have no weight of malice. What is this? It means they just have 40% conviction, 40% happiness. Also, they will perform the ritual, so it's very, very deceiving the happiness of your first two teachers compared to the happiness of other teachers or even students. So the first two teachers you have will be very, very easy to please just because they have the font cured by doing the rituals. Oh well, I guess he got upset because he slept on the floor and outside. So as you can see, sometimes you can build a room and the character will get stuck inside it because it doesn't have a door. And the penalties are huge for sleeping on the floor and sleeping outside especially. And also feeling unsafe because the fog being a little bit near. So yeah, it's going to be very hard to keep everyone happy. Also, the students are easier to keep happy in the beginning because they don't have the no weight of malice, but for the students at some point it will go away and they will want to graduate or do something, or they either want to graduate or become a teacher. So these guys will be very easy to keep happy, especially this guy over here, the quilted. Get outside the dining area. Really? Even that will make them upset, as you can see. So relaxed because they recreated, sleep because they slept very well, satisfied because they don't have any hunger issue. So their base conviction will be 25. That's what they start, and they need to have 50. If they go below that threshold, it will be super hard to recover. So that's why I keep insisting you don't modify the schedule too much, because any slight deviation to the schedule or any slight problem might make them sleep outside, might make them very unhappy. Also, if they are in pain, they have minus happiness. You have to make sure they can sleep, eat in a dining room, and have all of the basic stuff that they need. Otherwise, they'll just go crazy and you cannot handle all of them. So yeah, don't be fooled by the first two teachers because they're very easy to maintain, especially if you have quilted. If you have the werewolves, well, like not the werewolves, the wolves, they'll be a little harder to maintain at some times, but... And the raven cult, oh, the raven cult, let's not even try on and start with the raven cult. The raven cult are absolutely horrible to try and keep happy, and I recommend you have the better rooms for them as well, because otherwise you'll not be able to keep them happy. So tip number 9 was to the trio to start with, which is very deceiving, and that's why they're very good at their jobs. And then tip number 10 was related to happiness, convictions, and their personality. So during the gameplay, they also develop certain things. And I think it's a little easier to see it over here. Likes using air, prefers recreating in a room with Beverly. So if Beverly is alive, they will have a little bit of a bonus. Creepy dining. Enjoyed creepy dining when eating in a room with 4 or more creepy luxury. So this is what I mean. Don't go too much into these effects because you just go crazy trying to make everyone happy. They prefer scholarly, they prefer creepy. As you can see, they all bond over time, so they prefer dancing with Margaret. Anyway, you get the idea, and this is where you see their quirks. So in the beginning, if you have less people, it will be a little better, but if, let's say, Beverly dies, Anais will be kind of sad because they don't have the bonus from the recreation over here. So that can get really annoying. Now, I don't want to get into stuff like this because it will be very hard to explain. So this is a new player guide mostly, and I'll have more guides coming up. Sorry I made the video too long, or sometimes I explain too much, but you really need to understand all of this basic stuff because otherwise your school will just break down like a matchbox when the first crisis arrives. See you next time. Bye bye.